wanted to use
really short.
As we begin to embrace God and His love, how do you see, like in your mind's eye, how do you see this transforming people? Will it lead to bigger things in the church, or is it just in everything? I mean, how will people be transformed as they grasp God's love?
Yeah. You know what is fascinating to me? Jesus lived on earth for 33 years. Now, we know an awful lot about those last 3.
Yeah.
In fact, most of the gospel is about those last 3. But if you think about it, he was perfect ministry for 33 years. He was the Father perfectly revealed for 33 years. And we really only have the story of his birth, and then one story when he's 12, and then he's 30, and he's going down to get baptized. John the Baptist baptizes him. He comes up out of the water. The heavens open, if you know the story. The voice of God, the Father, says, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I'm well pleased." The Holy Spirit descends in the form of a dove and rests on his shoulder. And what fascinates me about that is this. The Father says, "This is my Son, whom I love. With him I'm well pleased." And you have to ask yourself, what's the Father pleased with?
Right.
Right? We don't know.
In our
because
knowledge,
in
the
our
ministry
knowledge,
has just started.
It's just started.
Right.
What my point is he got a well pleased before he did any of this stuff. And so I think transformation, to be quite honest, is again, the gospel's simple. We really complicated it. It's really simple. He loves us. His love is always good, and we exist to become sure. It's that simple. It's just saying yes to who he is, the perfection of his love. There's an element of faith in that, because circumstances will say otherwise, disappointments will say otherwise, needs will come and they'll press in. But you say, yes, I'm going to believe that your love is perfect, that it was a finished work at the cross, and then I'm going to choose to believe that, and in that place you become transformed. And suddenly you're operating out of his pleasure. I'm convinced Jesus did all the stuff after the well-pleased. It was the well-pleased that set him up to do all this stuff.
Wow.
And so he walked around as love in human form, just doing what love does. And that's really the narrative of the book takes you to that point where you get to the end and you go, you know what, we are actually prone to love. We are actually created in his image and likeness. And the finished work of the cross gives us access to the Father like Jesus had. And we can live. Jesus came not just to give us access to Father, but to show us what a life can look like when a son or daughter is sure that the Father loves them. And so I think transformation is even easier. The principles are good, the discipline, self-control, that's all part of the journey. But I think becoming sure in his love is the number one responsibility of every believer on the planet.
So you're saying that is the ultimate high point in our faith, that when we become sure in our love to God, then everything else that follows will fall into place?
Because here's what it is. It's identity, not behavior. And when you come into a sureness in your identity as a son or daughter, behavior follows identity, right? So if my daughter's caught up in something and I want to correct her, say she lies, I want her to know that there's consequences to lying, but mostly I want to know the Father doesn't see her as a liar. The Father sees her as honest. And because if she knows who she really is, if she goes, oh, I'm honest, I tell the truth, well, behavior will follow behind. So transformation for me is becoming sure in your position as a son or a daughter, and then that behavior follows behind. So that's really I think I've answered you.
Yes, you definitely
Anyway,
have.
that's how I write about it in the book. So.
Wonderful. Well, if you're watching, I know you're watching, you want to go and get this book, Jason Clark, Prone to Love, and you also want to look for that EP, Heaven's Crush. I hope you'll play another song for us.
Glad.
Great.
It's called Dreams, Visions, and Revelation.
I saw the stars tonight. And you were there. I saw them burning bright. I saw a grain of sand.